If one of these titles are your go-to speedrun, then you live in speedrun paradise. Plenty of runs and plenty of content to enjoy from passionate content creators. But I think a lot of us have that one game we wish would be a lot more popular. And today I'm here to make the case for my game, and why it shouldn't be forgotten. So let's take a look at this forgotten gem, Ape Escape. Now, as a disclaimer, I really enjoy this game. It is a childhood nostalgic bomb and probably my favorite platformer of all time. In this video, I will go over certain details of the game's mechanics, story, and gameplay that will spoil certain parts of the game. The first portion of the video broadly covers the game and its mechanics, and shouldn't contain too many spoilers. The second half, which will concern the speedrunning portion, will however discuss multiple exploits and game spoiling sequences. So if you at any point during this video begin to think that you might want to play this game, I encourage you to stop the video and go play the game as a casual would. I believe you will find this to be a truly blissful and enjoyable experience. Then come back and finish the video, and then start speedrunning it. Please. Ape Escape is a 3D platformer released for the PlayStation 1 in the summer of 1999 by the Japanese video game developer creatively named Japan Studio. By this time, the company had already existed for 5 years and was extremely active, being involved in the development, supervising, and release of 30 different PlayStation 1 games in 1999 alone. The company actually stuck around all the way until April of 2021, most recently being involved with the well-known titles such as Bloodborne. The story of the game is lighthearted and fun, while also being quite interesting. In the game, you play as a boy named Spike. Spike is best friends with another boy named Jake, and both know a professor and his assistant, Natalie. The professor is extremely clever, and among his creations is a helmet that artificially boosts the intelligence of anybody who's wearing it. Unfortunately, this helmet falls into the hands of a white-haired monkey called Spectre. Donning the helmet, which is only a prototype, Spectre's mind is corrupted and he is turned evil while still remaining super smart. He then mass-produces these helmets and breaks free from his cage in the monkey park, where he and the other monkeys are being held. Spectre and the other monkeys then go to attack the professor's laboratory, where he and Natalie have been working on a time machine. As this is happening, Spike and Jake arrive, and with the monkeys, they are launched back in time. In the process of this, Jake's mind is also corrupted, and he betrays Spike to become Spectre's ally. The professor and Natalie communicate with Spike through time and space, and tell him that he must go through the different ages in time and catch the monkeys so they can be sent back to the present, before they severely alter time and overtake humanity. Spike, making his way through time and catching monkeys, is confronted by the evil Jake a number of times and is challenged to do a number of platforming races against him. Eventually, Spike makes it all the way through time and into the future, and eventually confronts both Jake and Spectre. Spike starts off the game with a time net that he uses to catch monkeys and send them back, as well as a stun club to pacify the monkeys before catching them. As you go through the levels, the professor will send more gadgets your way to use. This includes the water net, allowing you to catch monkeys underwater, the monkey radar, giving you an indication of where monkeys are, the slingback shooter, allowing you to fire different ranged pellets against monkeys and other targets, the dash hoop, allowing you to run incredibly fast and damage enemies, the Sky Flyer, allowing you to jump higher and soar through the air, the RC car, allowing you to complete puzzles and antagonize monkeys, and finally the Magic Punch, allowing you to smash walls, although this final gadget is only acquired after already having beaten the game once. Now, Ape Escape is notable for one specific attribute in particular, and that is the unique way that it manages to integrate these gadgets into its controls. Ape Escape was the first game ever released that specifically required the use of a DualShock controller. The DualShock controller had already been around for 2 years at this point, but no other game had designed its controls in such a way that the game would actually be unplayable unless you had the controller. This is because you need both sticks in order to be able to control both your movement and your gadget simultaneously. You use the left stick to move Spike around, and then you use the right stick to use the gadget in whichever direction you want, simultaneously. Cross, circle, triangle, and square are used to cycle between the 4 different gadgets you have currently chosen to have in your rotation. This creates an incredibly smooth and freeing control set with freedom to move and swing and use gadgets in all directions you want while quickly switching back and forth between different gadgets. The game will have a number of different time-appropriate enemies scattered throughout them that will all try to attack you. In the game, your life is measured in cookies, seen in the upper left corner. In addition, Spike also has lives in the form of shirts that can be collected. Assuming Spike loses all of his cookies and also has 0 shirts, aka lives left, you will also be given a game over. In addition to these enemies that are after you, the monkeys themselves are also reluctant to be caught. This ranges from the more docile and simple monkeys that will simply try to slowly run away from you and maybe hit you a little bit, and all the way up to monkeys that will fire multiple missiles at you or will attempt to burst fire you with their machine guns. Yes, that is a real thing. And what is more is that some of these monkeys have access to vehicles, from UFOs to tanks and the AMP suits from Avatar. The monkeys all have 3 different attributes: speed, attack, and alert. And they will behave different based on their particular mix of these stats. In addition to this, while some of the monkeys wear cool sunglasses and goggles, they all wear different colored pants, and this is yet another giveaway as to what type of monkey that they are. Yellow monkeys are the most docile and simple to catch. Light blue monkeys are slightly more alert and are harder to catch. Blue monkeys have a very high speed stat and will in some cases be incredibly hard to catch unless you have certain gadgets. Red monkeys have weaponry and will either use submachine guns, missiles, or bombs. Black monkeys carry submachine guns and are highly alertive and will quickly start firing on you. White monkeys are some of the most alert monkeys and can be very hard to catch. And finally, green monkeys that carry backpacks and fire missiles. The game has 115 yellow monkeys, 33 light blue, 7 blue, 10 red, 11 black, 21 white, and 7 green. The game consists of a total of 22 levels, most of whom are grouped in threes and represent their different periods in time. These levels here are the aforementioned platformer races against our ex-best friend, Jake. These all take place in something called Dimension X, and are all extremely fun time trial platformer levels. This level is Monkey Madness, which takes place in Spectreland. This is the level that masquerades as the final level of the game, and is where you finally confront Jake and Spectre. But what is this level back here then? Well, this is the semi-secret 100% only extra level and boss that is only available to the player after having captured all 204 monkeys that are located throughout the prior levels, which gets us into the meat of the game, all of these levels. These are the levels grouped in threes where you need to catch monkeys to progress to the next level. All the level progression is linear and the order is always the same. I said 204 monkeys before, but you actually don't need to catch all of them to progress. All of the levels by design have more monkeys in them than you need to initially move on, and some of them can't be caught unless you come back later with newer gadgets that you have acquired. In addition, large golden Spectre coins are also scattered throughout the levels and can also be acquired for those that are looking to 100% the game. We start off in the Lost Land. This is a time millions of years ago filled with dinosaurs and other terrifying monsters. The levels in this age are Fossil Field, primordial ooze, and molten lava. Gadgets are acquired between levels and require you to go through a tutorial before using them. Already in Primordial Ooze, we have our first new gadget, the water net. The next age is the Mysterious Age, slightly further in time, but still filled with weird creatures and old temples. The levels in this age are Thick Jungle, Dark Ruins, and Cryptic Relics. In the Thick Jungle, we acquire the Monkey Radar, and in Cryptic Relics, we acquire the Slingback Shooter. Now, this specific gadget is going to end up changing the entire way this game is played and speedrun. But since we haven't begun to discuss that speedrunning aspect yet, I will leave it for now. At this point, we are confronted by Jake for the first time, in the level Stadium Attack. We agree to race him and quickly defeat him. The next age is Oceana, placing a strong emphasis on water themes while also allowing us to platform in the inside of a dinosaur. The levels in this age are Krabby Beach, Coral Cave, and Dexter's Island. In Krabby Beach, we acquire the Super Hoop, instantly allowing us to run much faster, and so obviously this will also end up becoming an important part of the speedrun. The next age is New Friesland, with the Ice Age arriving and a lot of slippery platforming. The levels in this age are Snowy Mammoth, Frosty Retreat, and Hot Springs. In Frosty Retreat, we acquire the Skyflyer, allowing us a lot more vertical mobility, at least assuming you're playing the game as intended. At this point, we are confronted by Jake for the second time in the level, Gladiator Attack. We agree to race him and quickly defeat him. The next age is Medieval Mayhem, with gothic themes and our first real boss. The levels in this age are Sushi Temple, Wabi Sabi Wall, and Crumbling Castle. And as a first, we acquire no new gadgets in this age. The next age, and the final age, is Futurama, jumping all the way from the medieval and into the future. The levels in this age are City Park, Spectre's Factory, and TV Tower. In City Park, we acquire the RC car, and at the end of TV Tower, we fight another boss. At this point, we finally arrive at Spectre Land and Monkey Madness. This is officially only one level, however this takes us through a number of different locations and sees us fighting multiple different smaller bosses, before we finally confront Spectre at the end. And again, assuming you go back through the levels and catch all the monkeys, we then arrive at the secret final level, Peak Point Matrix. Alright, so that is just about everything that I can tell you about this game from the casual player's view. The game was critically acclaimed when it was released, selling a lot of copies and spawning a series of sequels. Especially the music, some of which have been playing throughout this video, is truly something that will stick with you forever. So, gameplay? Amazing. Level design and the variety in the platforming is astonishing. The music is groovy. The story is entertaining. In many ways, it really isn't hard to see why this game was so beloved, and I think a single casual playthrough will make that clear to anybody. But now, let us take a look at the speedrunning aspect of the game, and explore why it is so sad that the game hasn't achieved wider success in this regard. Now, what makes a good speedrunning game is obviously very difficult to answer, and the variety of different types of games that people speedrun is nearly endless. I will, however, try to point at a few different points that I think speak to why this game is such an amazing speedrun. First of all, there is currently 3 different categories that you can run: any percent, all monkeys, and 100%. In any percent, we just collect the lowest required amount of monkeys and then confront Spectre in Monkey Madness, actually skipping all of the Jake races as well, since they are technically optional and they don't have any monkeys in them. In all monkeys, we catch all monkeys and then do Peak Point Matrix. And in 100%, we get all the monkeys and all the Spectre coins, 100%ing the game, and then ending on Peak Point Matrix. Each category is unique and fun, while also providing different lengths, allowing players to choose whether they want to do runs that are just 50-55 minutes long, or are fine with runs that last upwards of 3 hours. Any percent is by far the most popular category, and so many of the points I make later and examples I use will pertain to this category. The depth of a speedrun and how far an individual speedrunner can progress is often determined by the game's movement tech. On the other hand, too much movement tech, and especially movement tech that is integral to the speedrun, while also being hard to learn, often functions as a large barrier to entry for the game. Fortunately, while Ape Escape does have a lot of movement tech that can be hard to master, there is one piece of movement tech that dwarfs all else and is really the only thing you'll need to learn how to speedrun the game, and it is very easy to learn. I have previously indicated that the slingback shooter gadget was able to do a little more than just shoot pellets like it's supposed to. The slingback shooter can also do this. Yep, an infinite jump. If you jump and then use the right stick to use the slingshot, the game will briefly think that you're on the ground before realizing you're actually in the air. Being on the ground would of course allow you to jump, and so you can chain these two inputs together. This allows the player to perform an infinite jump. And remember, this gadget is acquired early on already in Cryptic Ruins, which, for a good player, is less than 10 minutes into the run. So this is a massive piece of movement tech that is acquired early on and warps the entire game around it. So much so that niche categories not mentioned previously do exist where the infinite jump isn't allowed. Also, the time in which this trick can be performed is actually quite large, and so learning this technique is actually really easy, and means it is really easy for people to pick up the speedrun and just start doing runs. Most of the other movement tech has to do with the super hoop, which you can jump boost out of, do neutral double jumps and chain boost jumps into infinite jumps. For anybody who are interested, I will leave some video tutorials in the description made by MarkHest that explains all of these tricks. All of this combines with quick menuing, switching gadgets, cancelling gadget swings, and a lot more. The barrier for entry is really low, but the skill ceiling is extremely high, which is the perfect combination for a speedrun. Now, as mentioned earlier, in any percent, we don't need to catch anywhere near all of the monkeys that are actually present in the game, and each level by design has more monkeys in it than is required to progress. This means that routing the levels is actually not super straightforward, and some runners might choose to catch different monkeys in different orders in the levels. Now, obviously there are certain standard routes that have been developed, but in certain levels there are trickier routes that could decide to go for instead. As an example, in the level Coral Cave from Oceania, you need to catch 5 monkeys to progress, but there's actually a total of 8 in the level. The first 4 monkeys are all usually the same and are caught in the same order. Before the final monkey, the current route enters a room where 2 different monkeys lie ahead. Turning to the left, you can catch a monkey with yellow pants sitting on a ledge. This monkey is comparatively easy to catch and shouldn't cause trouble for most runners. However, there is a second option. Continuing straight ahead and infinite jumping up brings you to a monkey with red pants that will throw bombs and use his machine gun. Assuming all goes right, this monkey will actually be caught faster, but currently only one run in the top 10 goes for this strat, considering how tricky this monkey can be. Other examples like this also exist in other levels. And so this gives the individual runner considerable freedom and variety in which route they can choose to deploy. This is, of course, another personal opinion, but I like to believe that the game has the perfect mix of consistency and small details of randomness. The levels are in the same order, the monkeys are in the same places, and so on. This consistency is what allows runners to build up that experience and ability to predict and foreshadow the game. But in the small details, the runs are all different. Monkeys will always react, run, alert, and attack slightly different on each playthrough. Pellet drops for a slingshot and rotations of bosses are other things that are slightly random. For me, the speedrun manages to stay engaging and keeps you sucked in since all these small details can't be predicted. But alas, no game and no speedrun is perfect, and I will now sum up the two annoying drawbacks that this speedrun contains. One is a minor nuisance and can be overcome/ignored, and the other will likely become a real pain if you decide to speedrun this game. This game is very ambitious for its time. Tons of enemies, effects, and large levels, and this can at times be felt. Lag and slow FPS is something that is triggered in specific areas of the game, and as a speedrunner is something you must contend with and try to mitigate by manipulating the camera. This is only a slight inconvenience, but is certainly noticeable. In addition, there are certain times where the game will glitch or crash, especially when the sequences change, or when coming out of cinematics. One specific sequence change towards the end of the speedrun is especially known for being able to crash the game, but unfortunately this event is still quite rare. And now for the real big thing. This is, of course, far from unique for Ape Escape, and many other speedrunners are battling the same problem in other games. Ape Escape specifically has two different bosses that both contain different attacks, and in both cases it is random which attack the boss decides to do. The first is a boss in the form of Spectre's large UFO ship, which is encountered at the end of TV Tower. Initially, the ship can only be damaged in between its attacks, and it has two different attacks it can do. It will either fire a red firewall that has to be dodged, or it will release multiple smaller UFOs that will come to attack you. The red attack is significantly faster than the UFOs, allowing you to damage him faster and ending the fight sooner. This fight comes about 75% way through the speedrun, and therefore is not something you can reset for realistically. This is the first large instance of you losing a decent portion of time simply from being unlucky, and you can't do anything about it. Now, the second and much worse case of this is the final boss itself, Spectre in his large automaton. The fight consists of three different phases. The first and the third have no randomness in terms of how fast we can complete them, but the second phase has an extreme element of luck. The automaton has 4 different attacks it can use, but only one of them will allow us to damage him once it is finished, and we need to hit him 4 times. This means that if the boss decides to do a bunch of the other attacks, we simply can't progress. On the lower side, you can finish this phase in as little as 5 attacks, while on the high end, you can see as many as 38 if you're unlucky. The average is somewhere around 12. But the difference between 5 and 38 is literal minutes. And so if you're unlucky, you could have had the best run of your life up until this point, spending 40 minutes to over an hour getting here, just to have your run taken away. Of course, on the other hand, you could also be behind and then have the luck of a lifetime and make a PB. But this RNG element certainly becomes extremely irritating the more optimized your runs get. So, how could this game be forgotten? And what do I mean when I say that? Well, the game isn't dead. In fact, it does show up on the first page of PlayStation 1 games with the most active players on speedrun.com, with 8 active players. So that's not all too bad. Obviously, somebody like me would hope that it was higher, but hey. If you look at the leaderboard, however, we see that the world record for any percent hasn't moved for 3 years at this point. In fact, the entire top 3 runs are 3, 4, and 6 years old at this point. Now, after this, we do have some good players still active and some up-and-coming players lower down. Luckily, a new showcase arrived early March of 2022, of any percent by Hornlitz at GDQ. This video was actually what caused this video you're seeing right now to come into existence, because even for me, this speedrun had become forgotten prior to this, with my own latest entry on the leaderboard being 5 years old at this point. I will put a link to that new showcase in the description below, and I implore you to go watch it. Thank you very much if you're still here at this point. As a minimum, I hope that you found this tale of Ape Escape interesting, and I hope you want to go try a casual playthrough of this game, and I really hope you may even want to speedrun this at some point. If you're looking for a new speedrunning addiction, this is the best recommendation that I can personally give.